and a very, very warm welcome from all of us to you. This is going to be a session about preparing for what you've been building up to, hopefully with the showcase in mind. And it's preparing ourselves first. This is so that we feel that we are at the right point to be there to make the biggest impact to the audience that we're going to see. So very, very quickly, this has been our journey so far with the 3 sessions we've had. This is what we're going to do today. And Fred and Lucas are going to continue next week with actually looking at the content of, you preparing for your pitches and you preparing for your decks. So today it's about you, the structure you're going to apply, and then going from there. And then the big day of 8th of June with the public showcase, where you will hopefully feel less tense and less pressurized by the time we've gone through all of this. So over to Jane to tell us more about today.
Thank you. Thank you. Almost welcome to Yara. I just saw your name pop up. It's really good to see you all this morning. And let's have a look at what we're going to cover today. Almost is putting on there. Today's agenda, the next slide. Okay, hang on, I'm just swapping lip speakers here. Hello, Yara. We have a new entrepreneur with us, I see. That's great to see. Can we all wave? Hello. Good morning. Good morning to you, sweetie. Hi. Hello. Being a fantastic role model, I see. Okay, so this morning what we'll do is to take you through, in a way, a process of starting inwards, working outwards. We're thinking very much about how you communicate your idea and your business, how you explain and inspire to your potential customers and backers and supporters and advocates. And because you will be your business, you are an entrepreneur, confidence comes first. So you'll see I'll be starting with a section about confidence. And we're going to look at how you can manage that, managing nerves, managing those overwhelming moments. So even if you feel nervous, you can still do a great presentation. We'll give you some tips and we'll watch an expert at public speaking and draw some ideas from that. And then after a 15-minute break, you'll be doing some work on structuring your message about your business and practicing delivering, because we can't emphasize enough practice. You watch somebody who seems to be very informal giving a public speech. They are, but they've only got there because they're practiced. So we want to give you plenty of practice today before you head on to the session with Fred and Lucas about the content that you want to use. Okay, so that's the plan. You'll see there's 2 breaks of 15 minutes. We're aware it's quite intensive today. So 10:30, 11:45. Does anybody have any questions about the agenda for today? We're in chat. Okay, thank you. Almost, can we have the next slide, which is a reminder of how this fits into the timeline for Friday's interaction? Just have a look at that. See where we are. We're in May already, good heavens. Now, when you look at that timeline, don't worry if you feel you're not quite in the exactly right point. We're aware that each of you is at a different point in your project. You're all doing well. But life happens and sometimes we can't go at the perfect speed we would wish to. So please don't worry if you don't feel you've caught up with this, but please do take advantage of all the flexible support available. So if you haven't yet had a Spark session with Lucas or Fred, or if you're dying to have that first conversation with Betty, please get on with that and put it on your calendar. Draw on the support. Does anybody have any questions about the timeline or their arrangements before we get going with this session? And there'll be help in chat too, I'm sure, about that. Remember to check your WhatsApp. All these wonderful opportunities coming your way. Okay, thank you. Okay, Hormos, we're back to you now. Thanks, get going.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you. So let's think about presentations and what kind of things can get in the way, do you think, of our this confidence we need to have to be able to speak freely, to project, etc. What stresses us, would you say? What kind of things stress us? Put it in chat or speak up, put your hands up and speak. What kind of things would get in the way, would you say? The remote environment versus real people. That's a really good point, Basil. Absolutely. It just makes such a difference when you're in a room with people and you compared to having this kind of barrier. It's an immediate barrier that we have to overcome. That's a really good point. Rubimbo is saying perfectionist procrastination. Gosh, haven't we all been there? And it's definitely something to bear in mind. Perfectionism is a challenge that we have to face if that's the way we operate. Because what is perfect? What is ever perfect? You want to give your best, you want to do your best, and that should be good enough, not perfection. Perfection is something that we put in front of ourselves. Procrastination is something that is, what do you think, everybody, what is behind procrastination? What is the element that is behind procrastination? And Majid is saying, is thinking about what I'm saying, thinking what people are thinking about what I'm saying. Yeah, just that awareness of, am I making an impact? Okay, that's one of the things we're going to look at today. So procrastination and perfectionism to some extent come from fear. This is something which is not unique to any one of us. We all fear it, feel it even. We all feel it when we are going towards something which is important, towards something maybe we haven't done before. It's a stretch, okay? And what we want to do is composed. Now, I do apologize for putting Donald Trump there profusely, but what do you think his style was? Anybody want to, sorry?
He just doesn't care.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care, but it was also not composed. It was all over the place. And he made some horrendous speeches, which were not structured. He didn't care because he felt that there was support behind him.
Also, I think one distinguished thing he did that he was using a very simple language where public would understand his speech very easily.
Okay, so that's good and bad, maybe. It's a consideration, a very important point you're making there, Majid. So it's, how do you simplify your message to just get through to as many people as you can, but still maintain what you want to get through? So we're not using Donald Trump as a role model there, but there are aspects of what it meant to present the way that he did. So excellent. Arrogance, Lucas has put. Egoistic. Yeah. Not anything that applies to you. Okay. Jane, over to you to talk further about what happens within ourselves and what we can do to control some of that. Over to you, Jane.
Okay, look at this colourful picture. You'd be glad to know that the brain doesn't look like that. The colours are there to make it clear. The reason we're showing you this picture, we want to pull apart a little bit what happens when we get stressed. In the chat, you've been describing absolutely perfectly how you feel when you're faced with a situation which is new. It might feel a bit threatening. I think Mashad and Yara were saying that, well, if we look at the audience, and we immediately start to worry or be concerned about what other people are thinking about us. So we thought it would be useful just for a few minutes to show you, to help you understand what goes on in the brain when this occurs. Because actually we've got several brains, you see, in the description there. Oldest brain is right back to the Stone Age, and it's an instinctive dinosaur brain, you know, keeping things simple in a way. Our second oldest brain, the limbic brain, is emotions and feelings. It's pure emotion and feeling there. The limbic brain is what kicks in when you feel, you know, if you start to feel sweaty, or your heart rate goes up, or your digestive system goes awry when you're stressed. And it will send things like cortisol around your body when you are stressed. It reacts quickly. It's there partly as a throwback to protect you against wild animals and threats. And it's there to enable you temporarily to react quickly, run away, sometimes called fight or flight. Deciding what to do when you're faced with a big monster or dinosaur or animal or in a life-threatening situation, and it's important. The problem is that the limbic brain works with every possible situation which causes you stress, and it's equally powerful for each situation. So it could be just somebody saying something bad to you, or looking at an audience thinking, oh my goodness, I've forgotten my speech. And we get that same quite powerful immediate reaction, which helps us to run away or fight. It doesn't help us to think straight. And when we're giving a speech, we need to be able to think straight. Okay, so if you head over to the left side, the neocortex, the new brain or the newer brain, is the one that can help us to think straight. And it's the logical side, stores information processing. And this is the one we tend to use maybe for studying or analysing, situation reading, considering, planning things. So be aware when you're in a stressful situation, how the different parts of your brain may work. And the good news is that you can get the different parts of the brain to talk to each other. That is possible. You can actually, if we can have the next slide, Thomas will show you a model from Steve, Professor Steve Peters, showing how this works. You can actually, when you feel your emotional, the right reaction to a situation, ask it to calm down. It just takes a second or half a second to say, okay, I see what's happening. And if, for example, you feel your heart rate going up, you're breathing, shallow breathing, panic, consciously tell it it's okay, and consciously slow your breathing just a few seconds and adopt a position that feels more confident, and that will send a message to your logical brain Right, okay, what shall we do here? How shall we deal with this? So when was the next slide? It shows what can happen if we don't do this. Pow! So that, when we allow the emotional limbic brain to take over, can anyone tell me, have they experienced that? You've ever had a feeling, well, no, I actually can't think of what I'm supposed to do. I'll put my hand up. Does anybody else want to put their hands up? Have you ever been there? Especially if you've been performing people every day. Fred says, heavens. Fred, thank you. Anybody else? What happened? Fred, tell us what happens when you get the emotional escalation.
Well, Jen, like, I think there's so many moments in personal life and in work life where my first emotional reaction to a subject, a circumstance, somebody else's actions, or my own actions is so different from my later rationalization to it. And so catching myself in that moment and not letting myself overtly react according to my emotions, so that I have to give myself a chance to breathe and to actually bring my other parts of my brain in is really important for me. So, but I experience it pretty much every day, because I'm sure people tick me off every day, but it doesn't mean I'm an angry person, you know, like because I work through it. But yeah, it's not easy, of course, you know. So I feel like that's the human condition anyway for myself. That's my experience.
Thank you, Fred. That's so honest and helpful. How much?
Yeah, just to follow on from what Fred said, it's a really good point, because it's a heightened sense of awareness of what you're reacting to, and stopping yourself to react in that way is a really important skill in a way to develop. It's not reacting as soon as you feel these emotional things within you, and becoming aware. Just one quick example is where I was going to do a speech, and as I was sitting there thinking I was okay, suddenly my watch told me that my heart rate, as I was sitting there, because it was online, had gone up dramatically while sat there.
Yeah.
As soon as I was alerted of that, I realized, and I told myself to calm down, because you know, I wasn't really that worried. I was well prepared, etc. And that made a huge difference in how I started that speech, because I calmed myself down. What Jane was saying there about needing to calm ourselves down is so important before you start.
Okay, I'm interested to hear from others. How you feel in these situations? What happens? Has anybody experienced this kind of takeover? I wanted to make a point that it's a slight paradox that when you give a speech, you want to actually appeal to your audience's emotions. Some of your performers, Basil, you performed recently in Manchester, I know, and what you do is inspire emotions in others. But paradoxically, you have to take control of yours to have the skill and to be able to do that. But you are trying to touch people emotionally. This is from some angles a presentation of information, yes, facts, information, but to actually reach people, you need to grab them emotionally. Any comments on that? Do feel free to unmute and share. Well, that doesn't have to be chat. Go on, don't be shy. It's us. Nobody. Majut, you've unmuted. Go for it.
Yes, I remember at the early years at the university when I used to do the presentations for the project. I remember how much stress I used to be and sweat and even feel the pulse in the veins in my neck. But then, and this is because while I am doing my presentation, I would be thinking about what the doctors would be thinking of what I am saying. So, which is very difficult thing to do. Think what other people thinking while you are speaking and doing your presentation. But then what I found out is that the first point is that I should not prepare just before the presentation. So this early hours in the morning, prepare what are you going to say, it is going to confuse you more and more. So it's better not to do anything on that day. The second point is just don't care. And actually just go to the presentation saying whatever, let it happen. And I think this is the best way to perform in the best way. Because otherwise, when we are so much worried and when we are thinking that I want to do the best presentation, here when we stress ourselves and we start to forget what we are supposed to say and so on. So this is my experience.
Such a good point. I almost do want to comment directly, but that's fantastic. Fantastic point. You know, that point about balancing, wanting to have a good structure, wanting to make an impact and get across information. But also you need to be natural, you're right. So being able to kind of pull back, resist the temptation to try to be perfect and let your natural flow go, having confidence in yourself. That's perfect. Almost.
All I was going to say, Majid, is that is indeed really, really good points. You know, preparation is so important well in advance, not the last minute, but also practicing it. Practice, you know, that is a big one. And okay, some indication of the structure I find personally, so it's whatever is right for you is great, but overdoing the script and needing to say every word that you have prepared actually puts more pressure on you so that you get that bit right. Just that naturalness of delivery is really quite important to bear in mind.
If I may add something as well, I think no matter how much information we'd forget to deliver during our presentation, would still be much better than getting so much stressed and saying something we weren't supposed to say.
Really good point. Yeah, absolutely.
Very great, thank you. Anybody else?
Basil,
Basil, I was hoping you would share with us some of your wisdom.
Can you hear me, guys? Yeah, I think what I can say is I have been exposed to, you know, to the public in many occasions. Like, so as a lawyer, I was expected to pitch a lot of like proposals to corporate clients who were paying us thousands of dollars every year. And I had to perform in front of like 2,000 people sometimes. And even when I was doing my master's, I was supposed to take on like some presentation, which had 30% of the grade. And the minute I took this, like the podium to start speaking, my laptop turned off and then all my notes of the presentation disappeared. And all I had was the visuals that were on the top screen without any notes. And I was supposed to be talking about a case about refugees in Jordan. And what I believe is suddenly my reptile brain took over. And then I was just bluffing, literally bluffing, talking about things that were happening with me in Jordan, just sounding very much like a field expert, saying things that are not relevant even, but with a lot of confidence and smile. And we got like 82 for that like presentation. And my friends who were with the team with me, they were like, what were you doing? Like, we couldn't even follow. And I was like, I just had to do something. And if it was like confidence over content, then I choose confidence. And same things when you make a mistake on stage when you're performing, is you have to consider that people are just taking your flow. And then if you break your flow, you're done. So a lot of times you have to, I think it's what you said, is like the limbic brain has to just, if I have a presentation, so the limbic brain would be setting up all the information in the slides, but from there, I let my visual memory guide me, my visual like connection with the slides, and not the rational thinking behind the slides. I think that's a step of kind of how we can avoid the limbic brain taking over when we are just doing a pitch, and just like attaching our attention to visuals so that we can pick it up like easier. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Basil's fantastic observation. Brilliant description of how the two parts of your brain are sometimes in conflict. Your limbic brain will tend to be more powerful. Steve Peters' book called The Chimp Paradox explains it really well. That's his name for the limbic brain. It's like having an overexcited monkey in your mind that gets excited and agitated at the point when things are stressful. And he talks about giving that part of your brain a banana. It's quite funny to calm it down. If you look at the next slide, I've got some tips from that, partly drawn from Stephen Peters. So you have already shared your wisdom. Recognize that there is this conflict. What you feel immediately, as Basil and Mujab described, isn't necessarily what is happening. Recognize that you can get to shift your thoughts. You can make that move from the chimp brain to the more rational brain. And the second point, taking a few moments, that's partly about pace. We sometimes feel pressured, we always feel pressure giving public speeches, pitching to customers. Actually, you need to slow down if you feel like that, not speed up. Because your brain works so quickly. A couple of seconds is all it needs to shift, to change gear, and to remind yourself what you need to do, the kind of change that Basil described, having a quick conversation. Give yourself that time, pause, breathe, and it will happen. The final point is a longer term point, that think about what your mind is telling you. We're going to move on a bit, talk about self-talk, the chatter inside your head. And notice when you may have self-limiting beliefs, I'll put on chat as well, when you may have negative. So, an example, you might be saying to yourself, I'm a terrible public speaker. Mujad said earlier, they must think I'm a fraud or something. That's a common one. Those kind of messages. Anybody want to put in chat the kind of things you tend to hear in your mind when you're stressed? Fred, thank you. Yes, when you're using a second language. And I know this, when I used to give speeches in Polish, thinking, oh my goodness, it must sound so babyish, absolutely. Any other self-talk, self-limiting beliefs that we have? Yeah, right, identifying with your Fred. It's a nice one to take, actually, because most of you, because I think in the room is Lucas and I have the privilege of using English as our first language. Most of you are operating the second language. Fred's right, there's a flip side to this. But how can we flip that belief? You're having that negative self-belief. How can you change the message? My English isn't good enough. I'm not an English speaker. How can we change that message? The same point, but expressed more positively in the suggestions, because this is the art of reprogramming our brain, getting rid of the gremlins. What could you focus on instead of your English?
Can I just say one point here that, so just following on from what Jane said, what can I focus on apart from my English?
Maybe things like that.
And this, sorry?
I know
There's a
people want to hear my message. You have to choose the best option for Mujad. Actually, Mujad, that's a really great point, using humour slightly against yourself, but that is a fantastic way of getting the audience to identify and empathise with you, and that's what you want. That's what the best stand-up comedians do. They get the audience on their side, often you'll observe self-teasing themselves. Absolutely. Any other suggestions from the rest of the group? How you can shift that message? Very good point from Fred. How well do the others speak your language? We are terrible language users in the UK. There's a glitch. Basil, can you explain that? We have a technical.
There's a black box
Almost.
just on my screen. I was
okay.
wondering if it's just me. Okay.
Yeah. Just ignore that. Okay, sorry.
Okay. We've had
Let me
these
just move.
road rectangles. I remember them from earlier. They're a nuisance. Can we have the next slide, almost?
Can I just say one thing about the points that have
Yes.
been raised is that this thing about, first of all, everyone here speaks really good English, and having an accent. What do you think about the fact that we have different accents and stopping that being a self-limiting belief? What do you think about that point? What could we think? Sorry.
And
Go
I guess
ahead.
it's not just a migrant issue. If you look at the different accents in the native population in the UK, it's very diverse. So sort of deflecting that automatic, migrants can't be understood and understand it as diversity throughout, the globe. And this is a global city.
Absolutely. Country.
Community.
Exactly. That's a really, really good point. And for us not to feel as if that's, inferior in any way, it's actually part of us, part of who we are, and owning it again and being proud of that difference is the way I have viewed it as I've gone along, because that's what actually might interest a lot of people as well, in reality. Any other points before the next slide?
I wrote something in the chat.
Oh yes, Khaled, yes. If you have
Okay.
different accent, that means you can speak many languages at least too.
That's like you are an interesting person, like you have another language you can understand, translate, work on it.
Interesting person, it adds to that interest point. Very, very good, thank you. Anything else?
Almost.
Yeah, Fred.
This is more technical. We managed to move the other Zoom panel out of the way, but your top one where you have things like a mute insert is still showing for us. Just FYI.
Right.
Take it.
Back too soon.
It's because I optimized the sound halfway through the deck, for the video. So, but anyway, ignore the technical stuff. Shall we move to the next slide? I think that's what Jane wants. Ooh, 2.
Okay, this slide. Have a look at this. This is an image from Marilyn Adams. She's written a wonderful book by the name "Change Your Questions, Change Your Life." It's a bit ambitious, perhaps, but this map I think is useful to hold in your mind. It shows the way that we can actually allow our thoughts to bring ourselves down. So it simplifies it. It shows a learner path going upwards and a judger path, and that's about judging yourself. So you have a look at the questions, see if you can identify where the person's starting. On the left, the questions we ask ourselves can take us towards learning more, developing, or feeling terrible into the pit of the judger pit, she calls it. So questions like, why am I such a failure? Why are they so stupid? Why bother? Whose fault is it? Trying to blame, assign blame, and also be simplistic, black and white, less subtle, will unfortunately take us to self-criticism. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with them? Very negative. If you can recognise when you might be other folk on the road, you might be hearing they don't know, what have I done, I'm so terrible, and shift the question, like, how else could I think about this? So on the learner path, you shift it to what exactly happened? Look at it a bit more objectively. What do I want? What are the facts here? If you ask yourself what are the facts in an emotional situation, that can help you shift from the limbic brain to the rational brain, what's actually going on, make you aware of the difference between the two. And a really good question at the top, what assumptions am I making? Think about how you are thinking. And instead of whose fault is it or blaming, what are they thinking maybe? And how much am I responsible for? So there can be a tendency, when we're being self-critical, think it's all me. So if somebody in the audience yawns, think, oh my God, I'm so boring, as an example. Maybe they're just tired. Maybe they didn't get enough sleep, or they have a new baby, or they didn't drink their coffee. There's many, many reasons why somebody could yawn. But when we are in the self-judging mode, we'll tend to jump to the negative questions. Oh my goodness, there, look, I'm so bad. No, consider that model the next time you feel yourself taking yourself down. Does anybody have any reactions to that choice map or identify with any of those things? Do you ever hear yourself asking those questions, either the positive ones or the negative ones? Chat or speak, it's great.
I think I probably experienced all of them. But I think since I've been on this refugee entrepreneur journey, I feel that I've made progress because I used to, I really struggled with stuttering. I still do sometimes, but it kind of feels like getting into a swimming pool where, you know, first of all, it's like, I don't want to break, I don't want to breach the water. But once you've been swimming for a minute or two, it's like, oh, I'm swimming now. And you forget all the nerves. And I think I witnessed this a lot on my refugee entrepreneurial journey, like where I'm doing new things, including the speaking. And I think I've gotten to a place now where I feel a lot more confident with speaking. So and believing that I'm speaking to an audience that wants to hear what I have to say. But I'm not so confident about speaking with an audience that maybe I feel doesn't want to hear what I have to say. So I think that's where I've still got those arguments in my head. Oh, this is going to be a problem. I'm going to be a failure. You know, all of the questions. What's wrong with me, etc.
Thank you, remember. It's very easy to go towards a kind of quite addictive in a way, to take that path to always assume it's me that's the cause, what's wrong with me. But you're right, that a series of those small negative moments can really lead us to a dark place. And it's about piling up the positives, it's about developing a new habit of questioning that approach, recognizing what's going on. Almost, do you want to give us some, Amy? I wondered if you wanted to say something about think, feel, do as well. We didn't put that in our plan, but I think it might be interesting too.
Well, the essence of changing, you know, what we were all just talking about earlier, of how we respond maybe too quickly at times, you know, emotionally, is this whole idea of, you know, getting our brains to a point where we think about things rather than feel them and then do it, rather than feeling this kind of immense emotion that we have to respond to something. And then, as Fred's example was excellent, that later on in the day, you know, when the kind of mind kicks in, it was like, oh, I should have said this and I should have reacted in that way, etc. It's actually creating a point where we don't respond straight away. So instead of feeling the emotions, then the thinking mind kicking in, then, the action follows. It's actually putting the thinking bit first, then what the feelings were about the situation. And once you've addressed those feelings, coming up with the action. So just swapping that round in that way so that we have more control basically over our responses, therefore over the actions that follow. So I hope that makes sense. It is just that control we're talking about when things come at us. And I know that certain people who are very reactive use methods of, for themselves, of reminding that they need to calm themselves down. So if you, for example, get angry very quickly, or if you get this stress feeling coming up in you really quickly just before you're going to present something, some people touch a band on their wrist that actually is a reminder to calm themselves down. So anything that works for you, as we always say in coaching as well, anything that you know works for you is worth thinking about in terms of that control that you want. Now, this quote from Amy Cuddy is about how you link everything that you're going to present, really interestingly, to what we talked about on day one, to your values, to your traits and strengths, everything we talked about on day one, and representing your authentic best selves. It's not, when you read it like that, it makes so much sense, but it's going back to why we're doing what we're doing, and therefore grounding ourselves in the truth of our own stories. It kind of really resonates with the why of what you're proposing to your audience. Why should they be interested? Because you're really presenting something authentic, something different maybe, that would appeal to them. We will look at that structure a little bit later. Thank you, Lucas. They are there to listen to you, absolutely. Okay. Oh, that's an interesting animation. Beautifully transforming away. Hopefully that stayed with you. So,
Okay,
hey,
thank you, Hormos. So we said we'd give you a short example of a good speech presentation. It's just a very short video, about 1 minute, and it's a politician. It's Barack Obama, but it's not about politics. We'd emphasize that. Our program is not. It's not political. We've chosen him mainly because he's a great orator. And Hormos is just going to go to 033, I think. We're going to listen to about 1 minute of the speech. And what I want you to think about is not the content, but how does he deliver the speech? How does he make it powerful? What does he actually do? Look at his technique. Think about timing, the way he uses himself, his voice, and what impact that makes. Okay, so fingers crossed the video will work. See what you think.
React not as a president, but as anybody else would, as a parent. And that was especially true today. I know there's not a parent in America who doesn't feel the same overwhelming grief that I do. The majority of those who died today were children. Beautiful little kids between the ages of 5 and 10 years old. They had their entire lives ahead of them. Birthdays, graduations, weddings, kids of their own. Among the fallen were also teachers, men and women who devoted their lives to helping our children fulfill their dreams. So our hearts are broken today for the parents and grandparents, sisters and brothers of these little children, and for the families.
Okay, just a short extract there, chosen deliberately. And first of all, did you find that powerful when you were watching it? Put your hand up if you did. Not the situation, but the actual impact of the speech. You found it powerful. Yara said yes. Okay, it wasn't hands up. I'm sure it said yes. Okay. So, how did he do that? Do you think, what was it? It was emotional thinking, we should. What did he do as a speaker? Can you identify, what did he do? What was his, Bassam.
I think what he did first is he laid out a very important statement that he's talking as a parent, and then as that he's appealing not only to his constituencies from the Democratic Party but to all Americans. So he pitched his speech. He started it by appealing to all Americans, and then he went on that by appealing to fathers of the adults, the kids, the families, and then he lays out quite some categories of people to make his speech more, to give more reach to his speech, and also to humiliate himself, like to kind of humanize his speech and depoliticize it. And that's and then the silence between when he was speaking and then silence, that was a very, very, very successful projection of grief and empathy. And then the thing he was doing with his eye, and the emotion, that even the personal emotion that was overwhelming to him, that was very visible to the speakers. And I think this makes Obama in general a very good speaker. Yeah.
Do you think that he was acting, or do you think he was genuine? Did you say he wiped tear from his eye? Do you feel it was real? Was it real? Yara?
No,
I personally don't
it's
think it
not
was
real, but
yeah.
I think I agree with what Bassel have said, along with those people learn body language and how they act in front of people, so they control their body language, because it's really easy to read the person body language in front of you, if he's upset, if he's relaxed, if he's stressed. It's one of the theme of doing a presentation.
Well, that's interesting. Anybody agree or disagree with you?
I think I agree. Once I watched the documentary a long time ago, and I remember they also write this in the script, in the paper in front of him. They write, now you touch your eye, now you do like this, now you look to the right, now you look to the left. There's this full script in front of him. He's following. That was in the documentary, about like how to behave in public.
I mean, I think I kind of agree that definitely his body language was scripted and his pauses, etc. I think the part that for me gave some reality to it was when I think there was a moment where he did look up and his eyes were actually bloodshot red. And unless he's taken something to make his eyes look that way, and the expression in his face in that moment, for me, that was the convincing moment. But the rest of it, yeah, I feel definitely, he's been prepared for his speech.
That's right. I mean, he had to be prepared. It was a very, very important speech. It's interesting to hear your reactions, because Obama's an expert speaker and has been trained. All those things are true, and the script was written. You have to have scripts as a politician. But I'm going to go with Obed in terms of whether I think that his emotion was genuine. And the main thing was the length of the pause. I think actually what was going on was not, I'm going to now cry. I don't think it was that. It was he had to actually control his voice. That's what I would say. So there was actually a limbic rational brain thing going on. I might be wrong. That was my emotional response, and as a public speaker myself, to what was happening with a very, very long pause. But I want to ask you about the pause. Albert, do you want to come on and say what you thought about this, the pace that he used? What did you think about that and the impact it made?
Hello everyone. I thought it gave more weight
Yeah.
to the message that he was delivering. Something I fail to do. I speak a lot quickly in presentations, but I think the emotion was genuine. But his ability to compose himself and his voice was the thing that noticeable to me. And taking those moments to breathe, to get your limbic brain to kick in. I think what he did so well.
If you timed the speech, there would have been several seconds of silence. And we're going to move on now. If Thomas, could you?
Can I just say one thing?
So a couple of tips.
Can I just say one
Please.
thing before I put the slides up again? Is that there are other clips later where he's really fully crying with the emotions. So, you know, if you look on YouTube, you will see more there in terms of how he felt about the whole situation. Sorry, Jane, over to you with some tips.
But this is just reflecting on that. I mean, you observed he had a very good body language and knew how to use the body language. But the body language, if you adopt an open body position, so opening your lungs and keeping your back good and straight and your shoulders out, try it now. Just try and relax, lift your shoulders up. Feel your muscles relaxing. That actually encourages you to breathe deeply. If we hunch, cover ourselves, then we're going to be more likely to shallow breathe from here, not from the diaphragm. We need to breathe from down here. And if you want to do a quick check of whether you are breathing deeply, put your hand on your stomach, your diaphragm, and you should feel it move fully. That will help. You can do that discreetly too, even when you're standing in front of an audience, especially on the screen. I can't see it. Just check I'm breathing well. Okay, the second tip. This is genuine. You'll tend to rush when you're nervous. You will do it. So even if you normally speak moderate pace, nerves can make you speed up. So as a rough rule, aim to speak at half the speed that you think. And that is for you, but it's also for the audience, because then they can process much more easily what you say. So practice with people, try with a friend, somebody in your family, do your little speech, say how much did you remember, try it slower, more slowly. The next tip connects with that. That's what we're saying about Obama. Use silence. Silence is powerful. The more slowly you speak, and the more pauses you give, the more powerfully you will come across. But you have to hold the silence. How do you hold silence? How do you do that? Anybody? You're holding your silence. The main
guess pausing
thing
at the
about
right time.
holding silence is to keep. Ravi, go.
Oh no, I'll start again. I was just saying maybe pausing at the right times. So thinking about that in advance.
Absolutely. If you're maybe giving 3 key points in your speech, it's got to pause after each one. And it's got to tell the audience that was my first point. let it sink in, structure it yourself. You can plan your silence. But in terms of holding it, just keep your connection with the audience, keep eye contact, show them you know what you're doing, it's not a mistake. Keep a calm, confident body language. Right, okay, I'm allowing this to sink in. Thank you. And finally, questions are a great way to interact with your audience. So that could be rhetorical questions. You don't actually want an answer. Or there could be genuine questions where you just ask somebody to reply or put their hand up. That creates an early connection with the audience. And the earlier you get connection with your audience, the better the relationship will be with them. Okay, Fred. I say Fred. Who is that? I can't say, sorry. Is that Lucas? Who made that part? Sorry, Lucas. Right. Silence online, like a really good point. Thank you for making that honest point. It's awkwardness. Awkwardness is something we need to deal with when we're giving talks. It can feel very disconnected to be online, especially if you can't see people. So it almost requires a belief in the people at the other end of the line, like imagining yourself there in the room with you and trying to recreate that. Fred's made a good point asking people to put their cameras on if they can. Basil has a nice tip though about using a visual. Lovely idea, let people look at it and contemplate it, let people reflect. That's great. And again, Basil's idea, like interact with the audience. Here's my image. Can you reflect on this for a moment? Fantastic. Okay, now we're going to have a break in a moment, a tea break. We've got a few minutes over, but on the next slide, we wanted to offer you the chance to be brave, please, and just try this. Just try it, this slow, powerful way of speaking. Just one sentence. Who are you? Or what do you do? Nothing fancy, but just tell us online and deliver this to us with good eye contact, good body language, and a pace, a slow pace. Would anybody like to be tremendously brave and go first? You've all disappeared at the right moment. Just your name, who are you? And what do you do? Come on, somebody. Robbie, how about you? Do you want to have a go? You're great at this, I know. Or Robbie?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Oh, sorry.
Go for
Should I
it,
go ahead?
Ruby. Go for it, Ruby. Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Okay, Robbie, breathe first. Breathe and deliver. Slow and powerful, okay?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Ruby, and I am an entrepreneur, and I am setting up an enterprise for her child. And it's really great to be with you here today.
Great. Remember, that was good. Now say it half the speed. Same words, okay? Do it again once more. Thank you.
Do you need more detail, or do you need, or is it just to say that I am running a social enterprise? Sorry, Jane, do you need more detail, or is it just to what I said was enough?
No, no more details. It's just practicing the style.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Ruby, and I am a social entrepreneur and sorry, a social enterprise entrepreneur. I was getting it all mixed up, getting all jumbled. I'll start again. Hello, everyone. My name is Ruby. I am an entrepreneur and I'm setting up a social enterprise as a refugee, and it's really great to be with you here today.
That was really good. Better, but it was slower. And smile, wonderful, wonderful body language. Openness, that was excellent. Thank you. The second one, I think, sounded, I mean, I'm deaf, it's funny, isn't it? Sounded, looked more confident. Anybody else like to have a try? Go on, somebody else, please try. This is your moment. Yeah, are you tempted? Ravi, that's Ravi first, maybe Yara will choose afterwards. Ravi first, okay. Go for it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ravi. I'm a social entrepreneur. My business is Pinum. It's helping refugees and asylum seekers to heal their trauma. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Okay, Ravi, how did it feel?
I feel okay, yeah. I think, I don't know, I need more, I think I need more practice to do it in a natural way. But always having this problem in front of a camera or audience to bring my ideas or like whatever I wanted to say, I kind of stuck and then start panicking. Sometimes I feel inside I'm sweating, and then kind of that stopped me to say my whatever I wanted to say, this kind of thing. So that's why I'm here.
That's exactly what we want to address today. That's why in this safe environment we're encouraging. It is such an unnatural thing, really, especially to see yourself on camera. But Ravi, it was really good. And can you now do it again, because practice will improve? And can you be as slow as possible? Imagine yourself on top of a mountain. You're the king of the mountain. No. And you're talking to us from this wonderfully elevated position. So hit us with it, slow as possible. Okay, we really want to hear you. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ravi, the founder of Pinum. It's a social enterprise helping refugees and asylum seekers to heal trauma. And then thank you. Just stop there.
That's good. The smile was wonderful. Yes, a round of applause from November. Yeah, that was really good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You feel the difference, Ravi, just a pace. Just you're taking the power to yourself. When you slow down, you're giving yourself the chance to be more natural, to smile, to use your natural body language. Really good. Albert is giving you congratulations. Can we have one more volunteer, please, to try just before the break? Anybody else? Yeah, were you tempted? You want to have a go? Want to try? Anybody?
Oh yeah, I can try. Hello, I'm Yara from Syria.
Slow, Yara, slow.
I'm Yara from Syria. I am a student at university and a mother of 3 children. I am establishing a social enterprise in Scotland about food being sold online, homemade healthy food.
Thank you. Reactions to that? Good. Very nice piece. Very nice pace. I think it came across well. You could probably slow down even more, a tiny bit. Fred said good. Yes, everybody's saying good. We've got Mariam and I think Bassel are volunteering to have a go. But any reactions to Yara's sentences first? Any feedback to her?
Maybe Miriam can go. Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, Mariam.
Is it my turn?
Go ahead, Mariam. Use your power.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Miriam, the founder of Coffee with Kids, community coffee shop where parents can study or work while we look after their kids. That's it.
Right, Mariam, once more, please, half the speed, because it's so good we want to hear it more clearly. Once more, please, go for it. Once more, beautiful smile. Wow.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Miriam, the founder of Coffee with Kids, which is a community coffee shop for parents to while they are working or studying. So we offer childcare service.
That's great, except your expression at the end was funny. Oh my goodness, I'm so
gosh.
embarrassed. So just try to practice. Just stay neutral if you can. Look at the audience. It was really good. Well done. Basil, you're going next. Just before we take
Thank
our
you.
tea break. You want to have a go? Tell us who you are in your most powerful way.
Shall I go? Shall I take a go? Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Basil. I'm a violinist from Syria who studied and practiced law on the side for like 15 years. 9 years ago, I left Syria and I've seen the best of the revolution, but the worst of the war. And just like exactly 9 years ago, I posted my first story on my blog on Facebook, a blog that now amounts up to 200,000 people blogging and sharing their stories. What I'm trying to do now is to amplify these voices of the Syrians in Syria and the diaspora through the blog that I'm starting, and also through the cultural events that I'm trying to organize through my startup, Antica Media and Development, which I'm going to tell you more about in the next few slides.
Lovely. Wow. Really good. Well done. That was really good. Really good pace. Well delivered. Nice use of short pauses and lovely content. And I think we all want to now hear the story. It was brilliant technique to do it. And that's all well done. I think that's a really good moment to stop. What do you think? Come celebrate with a cup of tea. 15 minutes break. So we're a little bit late. We come back at 10:55, 5 to 11. Is that okay? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. See you soon.
So here's a first challenge. Because you don't have your cameras on, we don't know whether you're here or not. So either put your cameras on or, oh, there you are. Good to see you all. I think we might be waiting for Mariam Khalid Majid. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Me
And
too.
Khalid is there. Yeah.
I am, yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So let's continue and assume that Majid, if he's not there, he's going to join us very shortly. As Jane put in chat, thank you so much for your direct involvement in this session already. And this whole thing of preparing ourselves more, preparing in terms of how to pace things, how to get our nerves under control, get our reactions to these things happening within our body, you know, into a place where we feel much more comfortable. So communication rules and cutting through the clutter. Can I just ask people, when have you seen a presentation that you felt was really not engaging you, and why? Anybody? Anybody would like to volunteer? An example of a presentation that they couldn't wait for it to finish?
For me, I would say when it is too academic, becomes too academic and very like the presenter or the person who talks like use like very in Arabic, I don't know how we call it in English, but in Arabic we call wooden language, like لغة خشبية, like wood. You know, it's not
Wood, yeah, wooden language you can use in English as well. It's
Good.
very, very strict, non-emotive,
Yeah, and
dry.
academic.
You can even call it dry, couldn't you?
Yeah, sometimes, you know, presenters, they like to show, they have the right to do that, but they like to show their academic background, that they know a lot of terms, they know a lot of like theories and things. For me as a presenter, I've like, it's like become lecture, not presentation.
Okay, that's a really good point and a good example. Thank you. One more? Anybody else? Yara?
Quite recently, during attending lectures at St. Andrews, they are using very high English word that I never heard. What I feel really stressed about is starting talking about theories in politics, like talking about liberalism, realism, those things that I don't really interested in. I usually switch off the camera, or I just drop out from the session.
Okay, so not relating to the audience, even though you are in an academic environment, not, you know, losing the audience because of some of the terminology using, which you know, do not relate, etc., etc. Okay, so let's look at some facts here about communication, and these are facts, and I think some of them you will relate to in a you know, common sense kind of way as well. So let's see. One of the things about what you want to do is to deliver a relevant message, which is of value to whoever you're delivering it to. So that's something to bear in mind. Who is your audience? So if you are coming up with a statement about what you do, what your social enterprise is about, that's great. That sets the scene for people, okay? But what they need to do, to understand, sorry, is what the advantages and the impact of your statement, your suggested idea are that will benefit. Disadvantage is another matter that can be addressed later, maybe. Now, the most important thing, and this is the whole point about relating to the audience, is anything that can create a connection between the statement and the value and the individual or individuals, the community that you are addressing. And there's that relevance is one of the main things we're going to explore, so that when you present your messages, when you present your ideas, you make that connection with them in terms of how and why should they be interested in what you're proposing. Okay, so do ask any questions as we go along. There's a few slides here, but the main thing I want to get to is for you to practice these ideas firsthand, okay? So the relevance of your message. Now, carrying it a little bit further, and I'll give you an example in a minute, with anything that you are suggesting, it might be a product, it might be an idea. If you look on the left-hand side and how that arrow goes off the triangle, oops, that's my fingers here. I'll get them off the laptop. What is it? Okay. So the first thing you might talk about, it's what it is. What are its functions? what are the specifications of what your product is? I'm taking a product here. What does it do? What are its values and benefits to them, to the audience, to the user? But also, what does it mean to them? Really, really important. So again, it's the relevance, it's that connection. It is making it almost as if you're talking to that person in a group of, in an audience. That becomes really important, okay? So let me give you an example of that I can just use here in terms of my personal example. So here's my mobile phone. Okay. So it's made out of plastic at the back, whatever the screens are made of these days. So the specifications of the phone, X amount of memory, that's what the function is, a phone, etc., with the specifications that it has. Now, the values and the benefits are several, because as well as just being a phone, we can send emails, we can send photographs, take photographs, send them around, book things online, etc. So it has quite a few benefits which are really valuable to me, but that focuses on me, okay? But what it means to me, ultimately, it has done for many years, is that it has created a sense of freedom that I can do so much more than I used to be able to do, because I'm old enough to remember those big phones which just made phone calls. And as these new light ones developed, it meant freedom to me, a sense of freedom. So it's that sense that if you think about some of the Apple ads that have been around, they created this feeling of a sort of a lightness, of well-being, of enjoying things, etc. And that actually, you know, is how I think about this mobile phone, which you might just think, oh, okay, you know, I can do this, I can do that, etc. But what really mattered was what it meant to me. And that's the core of your message to others, is what does it mean to you? So there's you phrasing on this slide in red, because quite often when you are talking about your ideas and your plans and your business, it's actually bringing people in. This is what it will mean to you as a supporter of my business. This is what it will mean to you because of what you'll be able to do as a result of my business. Now, several of you, having coached you, have this in mind already, but we're hoping that you focus on it even more as you go towards presenting it to the audience that you will. Any questions so far? It's pretty straightforward in many ways, but it is a reiteration of what all of this should be focused on. Now, some interesting things here. I quite enjoy talking about the hammock. If you think of a hammock that when you lie on it, does this kind of thing, okay? If you think about any presentation or speech, let's say, it has been shown that when it starts, people have 70% attention to what you're saying. Why do you think it's 70%, anybody? Why is it 70% and not closer to 100%? Right. Albert is saying they're not sure if they're interested in the topic yet. That's a very good reason. Absolutely. Anything else? Ability to interact. Yeah. Yeah. They're not sure about that. What Jane says is very true. They're settling in, still thinking about other things. Phones, emails. Yes. Oh, yes. That's still on there. Yeah. So it becomes quite important to change that. Skepticism is another good one. Yeah. To change that dynamic as quickly as you can. So right at the beginning, if you can do something, say something that will grab their attention, that 70% will change. Okay. Now, really interestingly, this is going through the speech. People's attention goes all the way down to 20% when you're talking about the detail. Isn't that scary? Well, it doesn't need to be scary. What do you think you have to do, especially in a longer speech, but even in shorter ones? What do you have to do to create that attention again?
Good suggestion from Bassel about diversifying your communication tools.
Thank you. Yes, I was looking at the room rather than at chat. Absolutely, Bassel is actually bringing different methodologies in. Absolutely, visual, verbal, interactive. Yeah. Anything else? Thank you, Lucas. Anything else in terms of the change of dynamics? Is absolutely true, Bassel. Relate to your audience is what Bassel is saying. How? Motivations, interest, reignite their interest with another spike. It says on that slide. Say something else that creates a spike of interest. Okay? And then you've got them back again. Instead of this, ooh, I'm getting bored here. I'm already losing the audience. And okay, look at the end of that hammock. It says 100% suddenly of attention right at the end. Why? It started with 70%, it's now gone to 100%. What's happened? People want to action things. And in the end, they need a simple summary. Yeah. They might be going back to their boss and the boss said, what happened? Oh, gosh, I've been asleep through this whole presentation. Let me pay attention to the summary so at least I can go back and say something. Yeah. And what you can do now. Yeah. Next steps. Excellent. So that box tells you what we need to do in terms of very key information at the beginning and at the end is really important because whether we like it or not, that middle bit is always more difficult for people. Yeah. Unless we really get to know how to spike things so that they keep gaining this interest. So starting with something that grabs attention at that initial point and ending with something that summarizes and it's a call to action, as several of you have put in chat, is exactly the right thing to do. Okay, so moving to the right-hand side of the slide, look at this. 3 items of average density info, i.e. each item should not have loads of information in it. It should be relatively compact and present a key point. So if you think, if it's been shown again with the brain, with the short-term memory here, 3 things are often easier to remember, much easier. So when we structure our messages, we'll look at that in a minute, think about 3 items, which are your key points and messages you want to present. The next box, if you spend more than a minute in a conversation and you haven't asked any questions, you haven't interacted properly, etc., you have lost them. Even a minute sounds too long to me. If you're not interacting with someone. Any comments at all on everything on this slide? So the point with that 1 minute is if you go on and you have talked for 2 minutes or 1.5 minutes without any kind of break and any kind of interaction or any kind of thing, it's getting too long. Any comments? Sorry, I added this myself. Any other comments at all? Listeners' fatigue, exactly. Okay. We'll see whether there are any questions going further forward. Now, I have seen situations, I have experienced situations where people just throw a lot of stuff at you. I'm sure you have. Yeah, just throw one thing after the other at you. And anybody experience that? Anybody have an example of a information overload situation that they experienced? No, it's like sometimes going to buy something in a shop. Oh, Yara, sorry, go for it.
Yes, I think people who attend universities can agree with me. Some lectures, for example, statistics, numbers and numbers and numbers. It's really hard to remember all those numbers, and there's no pause to explain to you, to let you observe those numbers.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And everything that's on this is on that slide. Does that apply then to you?
Yeah, worried or so what? Like, explain to me how I will benefit in my life from what you are saying.
Yeah, and I think the other worry is that last point, no decisive action. If you want somebody to take an action because of your initiative or your proposal or your idea for your business, it means they can't wait through all that information to make an action. Yeah, so that's a really important one. Thank you for that example, Yara. So here, in summary, are 3 deadly sins of communication. Too much information is something we have talked about. Number 2, I think especially in situations where we're talking about maybe similar services, similar things that we're offering, what's different about you? We really have to think about that. What is different about you that is going to attract attention for crowdfunding, for match funding, for any reason for people to support you? And as you will have gathered from everything we said before this, not presenting things from other person's point of view. Why us? Thank you, Basil. Yes. What is it? What is in it for them? And I don't mean that in a cynical way, but what is of interest from their point of view that needs to be considered? Okay. Excellent. I'll run through this relatively quickly because let me give you an example with this. If I gave you a big brown envelope, right? And this is the kind of thing on the left-hand side are the questions that you may be asking yourself in your head as we go through this. So I give you a brown envelope. Your immediate reaction is, what is it? So the person needs to come up with, I don't know, this is a project plan. And your immediate reaction is emotional. Oh, why should I know about a project plan? Importantly, why me? Why is it about me? What is it about me that has meant that I should look after this? So the person who's delivering it to you may have to say, we know you're the best person for this job, which emotionally brings you or relaxes you. You know, they appreciate my work, and I should feel good that they're giving this to me. Jane, you have a question.
Thank you. It might be a few minutes late, so I was waving.
Sorry.
Maybe it's more to do with the previous slide, but I just wanted to mention something that Hormuz's comment reminded me of. When I worked for the Foreign Service, if we were preparing for an important conversation with another country, with their representatives, there was a nice method, and you just set out what they want, what we want. So you have to really try and home in on the key things that the other country, the other representative would probably want. What you knew about them, it got you to think about them. So in your case, you might not be doing a negotiation, but it's a good way to think, what do they want? What does my audience want? And then what do I want? So 2 headings. And then what's the compromise? What's the negotiating space between us?
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's thinking on both sides, and what's the compromise is depending on the circumstances, what gets you to the point where you can move forward. And Basil has put into chat about not being always uniquely different, but it can distinguish us at least amongst the top 10% of the stakeholders. Yeah, I mean, uniqueness is really, really tough to achieve, but difference is not as tough to achieve. So there's that distinction between the two. And you don't have to be the best, whatever that means. What is the best is your other point. Basil.
Working with my organization in Germany.
Sorry, the volume is down suddenly.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Can people hear Basil, or is it me?
He's a bit faint.
You're a bit faint, yeah.
Let me try to log off and come back. Sorry.
Okay, let's continue, and we'll go back to Basil, make the point. Okay, so are we okay with the why until the why me bit? Okay, now, oh, he's back. Russell,
Can you hear me now?
yes, there.
Yeah. So what I wanted is, like, 3 years ago, we did a startup in Germany, and we were in a pitch, and the team of the team was a group of archaeologists, and they've done every possible thing to explain the idea. But then we realized in the break that the donors were concerned about our accountability, not about the idea and how great it is and how feasible, but about accountability. So we prepared a presentation of 2 minutes about the reporting mechanism we're willing to do, and we got 300,000 euros after that presentation. So sometimes we have to know, like you said, always relate to the person's point of view. So that's point of 3. They're usually concerned about the risks and not about feasibility. So it's really useful to also do research about these donors and where they invest and what's their investment, like, kind of portfolio is, to see where we can address their concerns.
Thank you for that point. Very, very useful. Thank you very much indeed. So just to continue with this bit, when we get to the tell me more bit, that's where the facts kick in and you're responding with reason and logic. What is it? What are the ingredients of this project that have to be responded to? But that response is emotional again. What do I do now? What are the values and benefits of the project? What does it mean? And the call to action, everything again we talked about. Can you see, the reason I want to show you this slide is how much emotion plays part in all of this communication. So when we're structuring our messages, something to grab attention with. And if you had a couple of days ago, we sent you a handout, which we asked you to think about different ways of starting your presentation, maybe, rather than saying, it was good that you practiced earlier. My name is, and I'm from a social enterprise that does this. But are there different ways of grabbing people from that 70% point and saying something, doing something, not doing anything, showing a photograph, something that changes the dynamic and grabs their attention? Yeah. And then your 3 key points, 3 key points are there about your introduction to yourself, maybe. And then in summary, in this case, it might just be that 3rd bit might be moving on to the core of your idea in this case. So if you use this structure for that introduction bit, just swapping it a little bit around, what can you gain by doing that? Grabbing 3 things about you, maybe. And, this is what I'm going to talk about, my business idea, which comes from maybe one of those 3 points about who you are and why you started your business and your idea. So rather than, let's go for 15 minutes, because hopefully you did think about this grabbing message. Who has? Let me just ask for, did anybody think about the handout we sent you and the idea of how you could start your presentation? Okay, no one. Fine, here's your chance. Try and think of, if you have the handouts there, you can use that as well to just give you some ideas about how different you can start. So this is only a minute where you want to do that first introduction about you in hopefully a slightly different way. Okay. So breakout rooms of Lucas, there's 8 people, is that right? Is it 2 3s and a 2?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. We might sneak in and see how you're doing, but we won't do that straight away. We'll let you in small groups talk about. Is everybody clear about what you want to do, what you need to do? Is that starting with a statement that grabs people's attention? Not hello, my name is, maybe, unless you can make that interesting in some way. Yeah. Then 3 things about you, which maybe lead to your presentation of your idea. Okay, so keep it short, only a minute, at the max, minute and a half. Okay, breakout rooms, please.
Welcome back. Is everybody here? I think it's looking pretty good. Thank you, Fred. Nice to see you all back. Thank you for engaging so well today, being open-hearted with us. And so, interested, before we go into a fuller practice now, what do you feel that you have learned so far? Just do a little bit of summary. What has been important for you? New ideas or perhaps techniques that you want to take away? Feel free to raise your hand or to put in chat what's helped you, and be honest. Sometimes just 1 or 2 things. Putting it in chat too.
I think connecting with the audience is really important.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Vital.
I think, yeah,
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed listening to Basil's sort of short introduction earlier, and it really just helped me to feel, okay, I need to look at how from the beginning I'm actually setting the tone for the rest of the time that I have speaking with people.
Thank you. Great feedback for you, Basil. Remember, what did Basil do that really drew you in? What was it that he did? Can we extract that? Capture it?
Yeah, I think, he was comfortable with himself. He wanted me to feel comfortable. His tone of voice was sympathetic. And I think also perhaps it's easy to also see that he's being quite authentic, but also giving a lot of information about his practice and his experience.
Good, thank you. 5 fantastic points then. Kept that personal drawn experience, which is vital for all of you. But coming across as comfortable with himself. That's good feedback. And voice, tone of voice, controlling that and keeping it, if you said sympathetic, warm, calm, speaking in a way as if you're in the room with the person, but of course making sure you're clear enough, loud enough to project. That's a balance to practice, I think. Comfortable with yourself. It's possible to seem to be comfortable even if you're not. You can act as if, use the right body language. Thank you. Good. Anybody else pick up any tips so far? Things that have come across to you as important? Yes, Basil.
I think, yeah, me and Khaled and Yara, we talked about when you present yourself, sometimes we mix up. We present ourselves for what we do as a profession than who we are as people. So we would say, I'm a lawyer, I'm an engineer. Like, in a pitch, you'd rather let people know exactly who you are, which means, and we talked, like Chiara did a very good presentation when she said, I am a mother of children. And I think that kind of presentation, when you are appealing to a humanitarian organization, can set a very, very nice tone and break the ice and make people interested and empathetic. While if you are appealing to different type of audiences, probably like an academic scholarship body, I would present myself as a Syrian student who came to the UK as a scholar and had a master's degree. And then if I'm appealing to different types, so there's a lot of like, identity is not, it's not a one-side thing. And I think it's intelligent for you to just pick a side of your identity that resonates with the room, with the people, with the interests, and then present yourself that you can gauge their interest in you and then get them interested to listen. And that's why I presented myself to Khaled. I said, I am a storyteller. When I play music, when I cook, when I write, when I blog, all my activism is about telling the story of the Syrians. And I think that's the key, that's the core for me that I would take to every presentation, is start by letting people know that I am a proud Syrian citizen who has a story. And then whatever comes next will be unwrapping and kind of like revealing this story.
Absolutely, that's what I agree with what Mariam said already. Thank you, that's great. That's really great advice. So I think it's interesting that you can choose how you describe yourself. We have many roles and many hats. You might be a parent, you might be an uncle, you might have a volunteer role, you might have a professional role, you might have an academic role. We have all these hats with different labels, and we can choose the one for the audience, the one that you feel will connect. So I know Yara, you have a food idea that's all about the family and food and culture. And so you're also an academic, you're a student, and you could use both, or you choose which one, depending on who you're speaking to, Hans.
Yeah, I was just going to respond to Basil's intro there, and it's the first time I've heard it in that way, actually, that I'm a storyteller as a musician, as a writer, as somebody who makes food. You know, you are telling a story in every way, including yourself, and I think that's a really powerful start to any presentation, because it's not, you know, this is my name, this is what I do. It's a all-encompassing aspect, which is you coming through straight away. So I really like that.
Think about yourself in 360 degrees. Basil's made a point that people don't know you, so they will see what you choose to give them. You know that if I show you my mug, is that white? But if I turn it around, oh, it's got some kind of special message. It's about the history of disabled people. And I turn it around again, it's got orange, it's different. Or underneath, I pour coffee over myself, you know, it's different angles on you. And nobody except yourself knows all the 360 degree angles. So you choose, you get to choose. Thank you. Are there any more points people want to highlight? Anything you thought, that's interesting. I'd like good tips you picked up. Or shall we head into a bit of practice? Your 1 minute presentation. Shall we go on? Are you ready to try out? Go somewhere. Almost is just moving the slides on here. So
I just unmute myself. Sorry. Yes. So we are going to ask you, or give you actually, some time to think about taking the next steps in terms of your pitch. So you've been discussing that introduction together. So now think about adding a bit more to it. Think about those 3 points that you might say about yourself, or your idea or your business. Yeah. Further points. We've set up to 3-minute pitch max because we want you to present it to the group. 3 minutes is a long time, so don't worry about that. just go as far as you can and come up with an intro and a bit more about your idea and your business. 5 minutes maybe is a long time. We'll give you 3 minutes to start thinking about that. And then we'll put you in pairs for you to practice this together.
And would this pitch include the 1 minute that we just did in the breakout rooms, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You're just adding to it. Don't lose that wonderful thing you've started, because you might change it, of course, but you've already thought about that beginning. Now add to it. I'll be quiet for a minute so that you can think. So very shortly, we'll go into pairs with one of us. Carry on building up your message. Great. If you're still thinking about it, don't worry. We're gonna go into our rooms. One of us will be with you, and ignore us if you want. Just go ahead with carrying on with your messages. So Lucas, if you can open the rooms. Okay. It was really good to observe how things have changed for the couple I was with in terms of their presentation. I don't know whether Fred, Lucas, and Jane, you want to say a very quick thing before we hear from everyone.
I think it was really cool that the guys gave each other peer feedback. I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So that was great. And they were also trusting of each other to, just provide constructive feedback in the short amount of time that you have. It's not easy to do that in a way that is easy to digest and super nicely positioned, because it's, you can only deliver information. So in longer feedback sessions, you may have time to kind of say all the good things, but when you only have a short amount of time, you may only focus on improvements, but it is actually well meant. So I think.
Yeah. Lucas, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, again, really nice to have some peer feedback and to be able to share that and have similar sort of thoughts around the presentation, but also to have a nice, safe space to try things and be like, that didn't work. and have like, well, I tried it, it didn't work. What did the audience think? They agreed. Okay, go back, let's not do that again. And that's nice and it's good. And that's how you get better, how you improve your presenting skills as well. So that was a nice one in our group.
Brilliant. Jane, a comment from your group, how it was? The next session next week will be with Fred and Lucas, who will talk about the content and the slide decks, etc. Further. And I know some of the content you've already worked on, but what's great about next week is that you can look at that content again and maybe make it tighter, because you've only got a few minutes to present. And over to you, Fred, just to talk a bit about next week.
Yes, thanks, Homos, and also addressing everybody who didn't see this part because they had to leave earlier. So this is important for you as well. I'll briefly screen share. And I just want to go back to the fact that we have the, I'm just going to hide some things here so that you can see the full screen. yeah, the fact that we have the showcase on the 8th of June, of course, today was a great preparation for that. This event is going to be from 5:30 to 7 p.m. We're going to invite a lot of cool people, and we hope that you will do that too. We know it's the springboard for you to present your idea, your social enterprise, your nonprofit to the UK, to people that you care about, people who should care about your idea, people who could help you grow it and who could help fund it as well. So this event is all about you and your voices. There will be some cool keynote speakers, which we'll announce to you over the couple of next weeks. But then it's really about you having time to present and you having a chance to launch your crowdfunders. Of course, those of you, and I think it will be most of you, who do launch a crowdfunder here in this period will have started it 2 days before on the 6th of June, and then starting your crowdfunding period for many weeks. And so the event should be a nice kickoff to your campaign where you can get supporters in, whether they are people who share your campaigns or who directly donate, or both. Well, we will do a follow-up newsletter with links to your crowdfunders, and we'll also send that on our social accounts. And we have a few partner organizations who will help with this as well, so that it reaches as many people as possible. And you can also, of course, keep sharing it. But the event itself, as you know, is a springboard for you to use some of the skills you learned today, but you want to be as prepared as possible. We want to make sure that you can present the idea itself, explain your next steps clearly, get people excited, and explain how they can get involved, how they can help you, whether it's supporting the crowdfunder or volunteering with you or partnering with you, because it won't just be individuals represented, they will also be working for organizations and companies, and they will have networks. So in many ways, it's not just about funding, it's also about building your community, just like Bertie has been saying for a couple of weeks now. Now, that does mean if you have a crowdfunder, to actually promote it there, explaining what you will use the money for and how it will change things for you and the community you will support. And therefore, it will also be really important that you can show the link to your crowdfunding campaign in your slides, and that people can scan it or jump to the link. So there's a bit of preparation to do, knowing what to say about these two sides of the story, and also digitally being ready. That means having some slides ready and having your story ready as well. In terms of how you will be speaking, I will tell you more about that next week, but in essence, you'll have roughly 15 minutes. So we'll tell you more about what you see on this slide to address the audience. We will break the audience into different breakouts so that they can choose who they want to see speaking, but we will also record everything, and then you will have additional content for your crowdfunding pages and your social media if you want to share the recording of your presentation beyond this event, which is really nice. And it's like a video presentation that you can use. Okay, so we will record it during the event. The audience will engage with you directly. You'll have some interaction time. They can ask some questions. You will promote your crowdfunder. And yeah, in the end, it's all about also having cool materials to go beyond the event itself. Now, if that all sounds like still quite a lot to prepare, we acknowledge that, and that's why we have next week's workshop from 5 to 6:30 p.m. next week, Thursday, where we want to help you prepare a outline or script, depending on how deep you want to go. We have some tools for that, as usual, that can help you structure your narrative. Some of you have already started preparing slides. We still want to give you some tips and work practically with you on the day to draft or improve your existing slides if you already have some. So what we will do is we will share with you some templates. If you want to get started beforehand, you can, but otherwise you can just get started in the workshop itself. Will be less instruction and more doing with feedback. Also, it will involve some breakouts where we can give each other peer feedback. So that's what we're going to do. It's taking what you did today and taking it one step further. Please don't lose your notes wherever you have them, because you can use what you prepared today to get started with next week's session and kind of going from branch to branch until we are ready for the showcase event. Okay, so that is it from us about this workshop. One thing I will say is some of you haven't had a chance yet to develop your brand or website. You're probably very busy with the other aspects of the program and of course other aspects of your life, but don't forget, during the program and after the program, those of you who don't have a brand or website yet and you haven't started using Spark for that, you can do that with us. So if you want to work on that, whether it's before the 8th of June or after, just reach out. We will keep reminding you about it. But if you want to do it soon, you can. If you want to do it later, you can too. You can even do it after the official end of the program, okay? So that's kind of it from us. In terms of your crowdfunding campaigns, I will just say session set up for those of you in London on the 16th of May. If you want some help making any videos for your crowdfunders, you can come to our office in Shoreditch and we will help you. For those in Scotland, so Amjad and Yara in particular, we want to help you with remote sessions that you can book. You would have seen that in the email I sent. We will send you some reminders closer to the time, just in case you feel you need any help with making your crowdfunder videos, but it won't be too complicated. We're just trying to make it simple. We'll send you some reminders about these things in the coming weeks, okay? So that's kind of it, which I've said probably 2 or 3 times now, but this time it's truly it. Homos, Jane, any last words before we go?
There are 2 questions in chat, one from Mariam. Oh, they're asking about the 8th, whether that's the same day of launching the crowdfunding.
As far as I'm aware, Lucas, maybe you come in on this, is the crowdfunders per se are actually kind of going live on the 6th of June, but really the first day of true announcement would normally be the 8th. Is that correct, Lucas?
Yeah, that's right. So as Bertie said, you want to have that kind of, you want to launch it, you want to get a little bit on there before, and then you have your big first peak, which is the 8th, where you drive a lot of traffic, and then you plan for down to have a second peak before the end as well, towards the end of June, beginning of July.
The spiking exercise we talked about, keeping people's attention. Video making is 16th of May, yes, 16th of May.
Afternoon.
Lucas has put it there as well, yeah. We've really gone over time here, but the fact that many of you stayed with us is a great sign, and we really, really appreciate it. Your engagement is certainly there from you guys, and so it's fantastic. So we will see you next week as well, in the evening this time. Hope that most of you can make it. Right, we better go.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Have a lovely day.
Great session.
Thank you so
Well
much.
done to all of you.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.